All right, guys, welcome to Tell Me the Damn Answer. You're going to get real life reality here with the kids and the dogs and everyone home right now, so excuse the interruptions. Two questions to answer today. The first has to do with, is caffeine effective for improving training and performance? And the second is, do altitude restriction training masks work for improving training performance? All right, first of all, let's talk with breathing restrictions. First of all, here are the claims from the website of one of the popular brands of these masks. Claims are increase in lung capacity as your lungs have to work 9 times harder to get the oxygen in. Increases in anaerobic thresholds. Gas exchange becomes more efficient. Energy production levels rise. Mental and physical stamina increase, and mental focus gets better. Here's what tests show. I'm going to put the link to the test that I got here from Pubmed. The title of the test is Effects of Intermittent Hypoxic Training on Aerobic and Anaerobic Performance. This test occurred in hyperbaric chambers, so not using the mask, but the altitudes that were simulated in this hyperbaric chamber are equivalent to, in general, the recommended training altitudes settings for this mask. The bottom line is it was 22, I believe, participants. So there was a control group and a test group put on a 6-week cycle of aerobic power training. So 1 minute of really anaerobic work, and then 2 minutes of recovery at 50% of anaerobics, or in the aerobic threshold. 10 intervals of that, increase in work output, decrease in rest over the time frame that they were exposed to this. And at the end of this, there was no statistically significant difference between the two groups. Based solely on the numbers, it actually looks like the control group, those not on the mask, made bigger gains. But that kind of had to do with a skew on what their baseline was to begin with, as they were a little bit lower wattage or output ability to begin with. So the bottom line is that a test, independent of the company that's advertising the mask, does not show any change in aerobic fitness, so VO2 max, anaerobic power, anaerobic lactic power. So we talked about lactic training, lactic power stuff, that 20 to 40 second stuff, and no change in the ability really to effectively transport hemoglobin or transport oxygen in that time frame. The website for the most popular mask, shows their clinical trial is a single test with no control group, one person being tested, no control group. Not necessarily a great way to base a product off a scientific clinical claim if there's no control group and there's just a single test subject. N equals 1, not a great idea, not good to back up data. From the research I'm doing online, I'm actually seeing the benefits in this kind of scenario come from living or sleeping at higher altitudes, so a longer portion of your day spent at higher altitudes, and then training at lower altitudes. So during your sleeping or periods at higher altitude, you're creating the extra you're stimulating EPO, creating extra hemoglobin, the ability to transport oxygen, and then you put that to use at lower altitudes. If you try training at higher altitudes, you can't achieve the work capacity or the output levels required to actually get the gains and work capacity that you want. So same thing, if you're always training under the restriction of the mask, you're not necessarily going to reach the output levels you want to get the gains you need. I'm not recommending sleeping in the mask. Not sure about that one. But the results I'm finding, or what is being used in practice, is more often living or sleeping at higher altitudes or in oxygen deprivation tent, training at lower altitudes. All right, next thing is caffeine. Specific question dealt with, can caffeine intake improve my performance, and should be used in training? Specifically, this athlete used to be a swimmer. They would take caffeine before races to get increase in the race, but not use it for training. So again, I'll go to PubMed for studies. Specifically, this one was was a meta-analysis, which means a look at 33 different. They use 33 different studies of caffeine performance, effects on athletic performance All these studies dealt with outputs of greater than 5 minutes. So some of them are borderline potential to have a lot of anaerobic in there. Most of them were aerobic tests. Um, the results show that they're all very high quality tests from the statistical analysis. The results showed upwards of 17% improvement in aerobic and anaerobic performance for 5 minute or greater durations. But there was a very wide variance in there, some showing no improvement, but all the way up to 17%. Across the range, though, it really does look like there are positive benefits from that time frame for caffeine intake. The effects on heavy lifting efforts or shorter duration stuff like short sprint interval stuff was actually not very conclusive, not statistically significant, or it was inconclusive. So something else from the study showed that the greatest impacts or improvements were shown if there was abstinence from caffeine for a week prior. So 7 days prior to the actual event or test, there was no caffeine intake. So let's look at it from the application standpoint for training. If you're constantly drinking coffee, say you drink coffee to feel awake in the morning, you may notice that over time it may take more and more coffee as your body adapts to that level of caffeine. More and more coffee to feel awake as your body adapts to that level of caffeine. Well, the same thing with the training response. If you get elevated heart rate and blood pressure and respiration rate and you feel like jazzed up to work out on a certain dosage of caffeine, and you do that before every workout, over a period of time you may find that you need more coffee to get that feeling. And then there are negative effects, potential negative effects to having that much caffeine in your system, such as affecting your sleep later on, attention span, other things that may carry over to your ability to recover and affect that, and therefore decreasing your training quality. For training application, just like creatine, very high likelihood from these studies of positive effects, but you need to vary your dosage. So go a week or 2 weeks, potentially. Again, this is just total offhand recommendations, but try a week or 2 weeks of dosing with caffeine, or pick a couple workouts in the week when you do dose with caffeine, and make it separate from drinking coffee to wake up. So make your only caffeine intake associated with your workouts, with trying to improve your performance in your workout. The recommendations all stick around the 1 hour prior to working out or to training or testing is when you take your caffeine dosage. Yes, potential for it to improve training if used only for training and when cycled. When it comes time to use it for testing, make sure you abstain from it for a period of time. These tests show upwards of 7 days prior to the actual testing event. So in the Opens, CrossFit Games Opens application here, it may be that you don't take coffee, but for the days when you actually are doing the Opens workout. And training, you pick the specific times when you're doing aerobic or lactic endurance longer interval training to take the caffeine.